We're going to talk about scale transformations in 1, 2, and 3 dimensions, also known as the r squared, r cubed problem. First, we need to make sure you understand what r squared, and r cubed represent. So let's say we have a water pitcher. That can be measured in 3 different categories, either linear for lengths, such as height, width, circumference, or squared for areas, such as like the surface area, or cubed, such as the volume that it holds. So linear would be one-dimensional, squared or areas would be two-dimensional, and volume or the cubed would be in 3 dimensions. It's really critical that you understand the difference between these 3 because not everything is measured in the obvious units. An easy example of something that might not be measured in the standard units is paint. While we buy paint by volume, we buy gallons of paint, we don't measure how much paint we need based on the gallons. What we measure is the surface area that we need to cover. So paint would be a squared use. And so that would be under r squared rather than r cubed. So because it's used in an area, it's a squared use, even though we buy it by the volume. Before we actually start a problem, I want to make sure you understand what we're going to be doing. We're going to take 2 objects of different size, but that are similar. So that way they're proportional, and they should be 3D objects that we are going to scale up or down. And we want to know if I know similar lengths on 2 of them, can I find the volume of the second one if I know the volume of the first one? Or similarly, if I know the weight of both of them, can I find the surface area of a second one if I know the surface area of the first one? So given 2 corresponding measurements and then a third measurement, can we find the corresponding measurement to that third measurement? To solve these kinds of problems, we need to start with a table. Our table should have 3 columns and 4 rows. And then we label the columns scale as r squared, r cubed. And then we have the original or the starting object. I call it original. You can call it whatever you want. And that is for the original or starting object. And then the new or the destination object. And I just label that as new. And then horizontally, we have r, and then r squared, and then r cubed as our scalars. R is for linear, r squared is for area, and r cubed is for volume. Now let's label our 3 columns, A for the first column, B for the second column, and C for the third column. And if we label them that way, we know that A times B is equal to C. And we can use that to solve for A, B, or C if we know 2 of the other columns. Now suppose we have 2 objects we want to compare. The first one is 12 inches tall, and the second one is 24 inches tall. And we know that the larger one holds 18 cups in volume. Now, we are going to fill those out. R is 12 inches and 24 inches because those are length or linear measurements. And the cups is a volume measurement, and so that's going to be in the r cubed row. Now, if you look at the R row, we can figure out column A because we know A times B equals C. And so if we take C divided by B, we will get A. So 24 divided by 12 is 2. Now, to find the scale factor for 18 cups, we need to find R cubed because that's the same row as the 18 cups. And so we need to take R and cube it. So we need to take 2 to the third power, which is 8. Once we have that, then all we need to do is take 18 cups divided by 8 and get 2.25 cups. And that's because Column A times column B is equal to column C. And remember, A times B equals C means that B equals C divided by A. If you have trouble finding the cubed, on the very next page, we're going to show you how to do cubes and cube roots and squares and square roots. To cube something means to raise it to the third power. So, for example, 8 cubed means 8 to the third power. To do this on a calculator, just type in 8, and then the power button, which is that caret, to the third, equals, and you'll get 8 cubed. Similarly, to square a number, we just raise it to the second power. So 15 squared would be done with 15, and then the power button, which is the caret, to the second power, and that equals. And then our calculator would give us our answer. Now, sometimes the power button is not the caret. On some calculators, it's x to the y or y to the x. So look for that. What happens if we need to undo a cube or a square? That's actually easy with our calculator. For example, to find the cube root or undo the cube of 358, we would do this. We do a 3 because that's the cube. We're undoing the cube, so we do a 3. Next, we push the second button because we want to undo. So we use the second button to undo things. And then we push the power button because we're undoing the exponent. So push that power button, the caret. And then 358 because that's what we're finding the cube root of. And then we push the equal sign to get our answer. One thing we need to know how to do is how to use our answer in the next math problem. Thankfully, your calculator has a button for this. Cleverly, it's called the answer button. Be sure you know how to use this button. On most calculators, you hit the second button and then another button, and many calculators, it's the negative button. So if you were to hit second and negative, then ANS would appear on the screen, which means answer. So if you ever need to use the previous answer in your problem, then use second and then the negative button, or whatever key combination you need for your calculator. Here's a somewhat more complicated problem. We're going to start with our chart that has a scale, original, new, and the r squared, r cubed. Let's say the new item is 3,029 pounds and the original item is 37 pounds. And let's just assume that the new item has an area of 712 square feet. Now we want to find out what the scale factor is. So we're going to find the r cubed because that's the one where we have 2 pieces of data already. And to find r cubed, we just take 3,029 divided by 37. And that's 81.86. Now, do not clear that out of your calculator. We need to find r, and so we need to undo the cube. And so to undo the cube, remember we push 3 because we're undoing the cube, and then we push second power because we want to undo the power, and then we push second answer to undo the cube of the answer, and then equals. And if you did that correctly, you should have 4.34. Now, don't erase that out of your calculator. And now we need to get r squared. So we're going to square our answer. Good thing we didn't clear out our answer. And we are going to push second answer and then to the power of 2. And then equals. And we should get about 18.85. Now, do not clear that out yet. And now we're almost there. And to get the r squared original value, we just need to take 712 divided by 18.85. So we're going to do 712 divided by answer. And we need to make sure that we use that answer button. Otherwise, we won't get all those digits. Your digits should be exactly the same as mine if you did it on your calculator.